enough. As good enough.
Welcome to our weekly podcast, Good Enough, with your co-hosts, Sam Lewis and Mark Lips. Our goal on Good Enough is to interview guests who do not let being perfect keep them from achieving their dreams. Whether it be writing a book, growing a business, achieving some other success, all of these people are heartfelt, passionate, and good enough to be noticed and guests on our podcast. We welcome them, and we also thank you for joining us today.
Wow, look at that. Listeners, I have my sidekick Mark on here. This guy is haired over.
Yeah, I
Got
kind
a
of
full
look the part.
beard.
Right? I look the part now.
Got that farmer's hat on.
Yeah. So, listeners, I busted a wing. Well, not a wing, a leg. And I literally, Sam, get this. He said I tore the largest muscle. Oh, geez.
That you could find?
Muscle in your body, the quad muscles, ripped them away from the knee. And so it's going to be, he thinks it's going to be an 8-month process.
Oh yeah, man, that's not good.
The brace on, the immobilization brace, and then I've got a.
Did your quad muscle bunch up? I've seen that.
It didn't really bunch up. I mean, it was swollen.
I've seen that happen where they tear the muscle away, and then the muscle just contracts, and it's a big knot.
Well, it may have contracted, but it was just really swollen there, and it was strange because you get overconfident because you can stand with your knees locked, you can stand straight up. And so I would use the crutches and I'd go out and start doing something, but my knee would just bend a little bit. I'd fall right down.
Oh my God. Mark.
It,
Listeners, he sent me a picture of the knee in question, leg surgery in question. It looks like something from Frankenstein, like it's got a giant long. How long is that thing?
And I'm talking about but you know, these aren't sutures; these are staples. You know.
Yeah, so, they're industrial grade.
Yeah, and I mean,
well, you know why that happened?
Because I can't do anything half-assed. I would love to just have a stomach ache one of these days, but this, you know.
Well, I think we know why it happened. It was, because you should have been at the class reunion, and
there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, paybacks. You know what it is. So, but I was thinking the other day. I was going, geez, I've can barely see out of my right eye. So retina surgery, scars from melanoma surgery, rectal cancer surgery, vasectomy, which was optional. And
was it really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, well, yeah, true. And then there's, the hernia scars and all of that. Like I said earlier, can I just get a stomach ache or something for once?
That's true. I was thinking about that too. I was like, man, that guy, they're talking about doing a hip replacement on me. And I still haven't scheduled it. I'm like, Mark just does this shit on the weekend and he goes back to work on Monday. Yeah.
So what? Yeah, but aren't you in pain if you need a hip replacement?
No, if I don't, there's certain things. It's not, as long as I stay away from it, it doesn't hurt, like walking is one of them. Carrying anything.
Yeah. It's funny how that's always the when
I don't need to walk. I don't need to carry stuff.
Yeah, no, I got other people to do that for me.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Well, you were missed at the class reunion, and Becky, I don't know if she told you that story. I think I told you she scared the hell out of me. I called her and to check in that Saturday morning. She goes, just call your buddy. Call Mark now. I said, what? What's going on? She goes, call Mark now. And hung up. It's like, what the hell happened? So I didn't know if you were dead or. And then
Oh,
I
right.
thought, well, if he was dead, he wouldn't be
Yeah,
calling him.
that was the morning I went into yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell happened. I was like, oh my
Oh, your
God,
buddy right now.
call him right now.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, those guys, and it puts it all in perspective, though, when you think about, I got buddies in North Carolina and obviously people I know in Florida who are just, so
Yeah, that's
hey,
horrific.
there's
Yeah.
always someone a little worse off. So
Yeah.
anyway, this our podcast, which is good enough, listeners. It is just good enough. Uh, is brought to you by the Happy Friday Neighbors newsletter that comes out every week, every Friday, and it also by the Ripe Choice Farm Stay and Catering here in Northern California. Sam.
On this end of the country, Central Illinois, it's brought to you by Pride Staff. We're a full service staffing agency. We do temp to hire, direct hire. We cover light industrial, office clerical, warehouse. Also brought to you by Sam Substack, the Finally Friday Philosophy newsletter, journal, whatever you want to call it, comes out on Friday. Not as regular as Mark's and for not as long as Mark's, but um, I think you can find something interesting in it every now and then. I'm just entertaining
I
myself,
steal
folks.
from it. I steal from it religiously.
And I'm glad, and that's I feel a sign of praise. I'm glad you do. Um,
Especially Mike's funnies.
that guy, I don't know where he gets those, but he is.
I like,
You know
what I
how
like
long he's done
to say,
them?
listeners, in his weekly newsletter or weekly Finally Friday, he has a jokes a section that's called Mike's Funnies, right? Mike's
Yep.
Funnies,
Mm-hmm.
and
Friday funnies.
all the Mike's Friday Funnies, and all the little bits of humor are themed. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. I tell you
Uh,
what, was it Cars last week? And so every little one
yeah,
liner or joke had something to do with
that's
cars. And so
right.
I have these saved for years. I mean, these go back years. So when
Yeah,
I go on there and sometimes I'll pick a theme that goes with
right.
the journal that day. And like if
Yeah,
I'm talking about cars, I'll go find one from 2006
right.
on cars.
Well, you need to put one out this week on Halloween so I can lift that from you and
All right.
put it
Well,
on my
I'll
Halloween.
go looking for Halloween, see if he's got one. I'll make a note of that.
Huh.
Yeah, Mike's been, I don't know, the first Finally Friday philosophy, the first PPP years ago, I had contributors, regular
Mhm.
contributors, and I didn't realize that. And I went back to that file and opened it up. And Mark, it was shocking to me how many of those people are gone.
Yeah, well,
And
you know,
they constantly send me jokes or
you
material.
took it to a morbid place.
I know, but it was just I,
Well, that's what Becky was saying about our class reunion. We'll have next class reunion be another 10% of us gone. I don't want to talk about that, listeners. Do you want? No, what's he doing over here?
I was just what
Killing
I
me.
was actually trying to say is I was surprised that I had forgotten all these contributors. Mark, are you with us? Mark, he just faded off the screen. No, he's
Yep,
back. He's back.
he's back.
He
All right.
might
Well,
have a mini stroke or something.
I think when we get our guest on, I've known her for a few years. Well, when we were living in the South Bay, and we're on Facebook, and she's on my newsletter, and I've even had her speak at Rotary. But I think you're going to enjoy this lady. Pretty amazing, good story, amazing story, and um, sort of socially tragic in a sense.
Yeah, I did research on her. I did my homework.
Yeah, good, good, good,
I
good.
watched her TED Talk. She has a TED Talk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where
Uh,
did she do that TED Talk? I guess I could ask.
Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan. Okay. Well, I knew she'd done Manhattan. I wasn't sure if she did
One
elsewhere.
I saw. I mean, she might have done another one, but that's the one I found.
Right, right. Yep,
I have questions. I'm on the TED Talk committee here, so I have questions.
Yeah. Get her. That's two people we've brought on that do TED Talks that you could bring in.
Yeah, yeah.
Me,
Well, they have to do a
one,
different kind of talk, though. That's the TED rules. If you did it once on this,
oh,
you have
really?
to.
You can't repeat your
No,
what?
you can't.
You can't do a circuit where I could do my TED
No.
Talk here, do it over. Really? I no, all the
There's
TED.
all kind. It's pretty restrictive. I got to be careful what I
Yeah.
say. I don't know where this would go, but
Well, I thought Jenny did hers, in a few TED Talks.
you can do another TED Talk, but you have to have significant
Probably the
change in the
same.
topic.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know what other topic she would have had, but okay. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask Sarah about that. Interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of rules to it. We've had a couple TED Talks they didn't accept. They said they just weren't TED.
More
It didn't
sand.
have technology, education, and design. They said, and then, to be honest, I was like, yeah, it's kind of like, burning incense and this saved the world.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't see technology, education, or design in there anywhere.
Yeah. Do
Uh,
you include? I'm trying to remember. I looked at the agenda on one of yours from there, and do you include youth as one of your speakers? Someone in that space. I don't mean in the youth space. I mean that age.
yeah,
Like,
we had a junior high. I think
okay,
our youngest speaker. She spoke twice. She changed her topic and did a second one. But her first one was, I think her second one needed work. I think one thing I've learned about TED Talks, if you want to have a good TED Talk, you start with a good script first.
yeah, yeah. So,
And
how
you just
do the TED people come and do they visit your TED Talk to make sure that you're
you
just?
submit, well, you submit the videos. The product is the video. So
Okay.
when you're doing the live talk, you have an audience, but you don't have to. But you have an audience and you video it, and that product is what you submit to TED, and then they accept or deny each individual talk.
Because then they could take it and market it from there.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
yeah. So it
Okay.
is 4 o'clock.
Yep. Let's go see if Sarah's in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'll see you on the other side.
All right, buddy.
Well, that's a great
Sarah.
cover picture. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to take my shoes off and hold them.
Yeah. Well, you should see the places where she's taking her shoes off. Man.
I've seen some
Dangling from the
there
side
she
of a
is.
somewhere. That's where she's taking her shoes off. I mean, unbelievable. So I dressed up for you, Sarah.
Oh, I dressed up for you. I've got my Miracosta on because I'm going to another game right after this.
Wow.
Nice. I thought I'd bring you full circle home.
Yeah, you have. You have. So listen, this is going to fly by, and you are so interesting that we gotta get right into it. So listeners, this is Sara Schulting Kranz, who is a life and trauma coach. Now, it's interesting. I wanted you to just briefly tell us, I know it. And so I always go, well, do we really need, because you think everybody else knows Sarah's story, but probably not. And in this case. And so get a little background on how you got to being a life coach that you are today.
You want me to dive into the?
Well, the thing is, okay. So
oh my gosh,
Mark. Mark.
I know.
You know Mark.
Hey, it's going to go fast.
By the way, I'm Sam Lewis, Sarah. Good to meet you.
Oh, sorry. This is Sam, my high school buddy.
Friends back here.
High school buddy from 50 years ago. So, the thing is, a lot of people will go and they'll study to be a life coach. Yours comes from an organic process of you walked it before you talked it. Yes. And that's really coming from the heart. That's really coming from a place of realness. So it's not like you don't know what you're talking about because you live. Right. So that's why, and everybody knows the term life coach, but on your bio, you say, And you get it when you know your story. Life and trauma coach.
Yeah. Well, so it's actually, believe it or not, this is how, and it's been a little bit since I've talked to you.
Yeah.
I have since then stepped more into leadership and executive coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Here's why. Because, well, I'll kind of like dive back into, I'll explain what got me into the life and leadership coaching to begin with, and trauma coaching. So go back to 2013.
Right.
2013, my life absolutely imploded. You know the story. I found out that my husband, who I was married to at the time for 17 years, had been betraying me for 14 of our 17 years of marriage. He ended up coming out as gay. And my story is not unlike many others. What's interesting is that back in 2013, even 2013, right, which was quite a few years ago, that was unheard of. People didn't talk about this. This was like the thing that it's like the thing that no one talked about, right? Mm-hmm. And so what it did for me was that it resurrected a lot of other trauma that I had had in my life back from when I was 17. And I have a whole book that I wrote on this. It's done really, really well, bestseller on Amazon. And the point to this is, when I was coming out of this massive, complex PTSD trauma back in 2013, I realized that there was so much more to my story than the story that I was walking in. It was about how that could eventually help other people. And the beautiful thing that it did is that it unearthed, right? I'm also a nature person. I love mountains. I love the ocean. I go back to nature a lot. It unearthed this entire part of me that since that time back in 2013, which I don't even talk about that much anymore, to be honest with you. Like, that's what's so funny, Mark, is that like I share this story, but I really push people to the book.
Right. I just wanted people to know where you're coming from.
Yeah, of course.
But what really kickstarted your life as we know it today.
Yeah, and the
listeners, there were kids involved. This was
I have 3 sons. I mean, literally my life was so devastated. Like, I was so devastated. I mean, I had thought about taking my life. I was the mom here I live in Hermosa Beach, and I was the mom in Hermosa Beach that was like the volunteer. I was a basketball coach for my son's team. I loved, if you talk about the white picket fence, which, by the way, I did have like similar to that. I had this life that I loved, right? And then all of a sudden, literally in the flash of an instant, it's gone. And the thing about trauma and the thing about living through something like that is that it does unearth all of the trauma from your past, because it's almost like it triggers everything forward. And then on top of it, there was this other part to it, was what was true in my life. I know I'm standing there at 40 and I'm like,
now you've got real.
Is anything even true? Like, can I trust anyone?
Oh my gosh. Can I really believe what someone's telling me when I've had the one person who was closest to me, my best friend, all those years prior to me, and now it's upended.
Okay. Well,
by the way, just so that we don't, you're in a better place. I mean, you're a great with your kids. The kids are just wonderful. You're in a great place with your ex, right?
I am so happy today.
Yeah.
Like,
so you did not kill him.
No. I'll tell you though, people ask me that a lot. They were like, well, how mad were you? And I said, I punched him. And all I did is I looked at him and I said, you're lucky that I didn't punch you at full strength, because you have no idea the amount until you've lived through something like that and stood literally in front of somebody that you trusted, loved, and cared for, and gave up so much of your own life for, your career for. I mean, I was a teacher. I went to UW-Madison for art education. I was a very successful teacher back in Wisconsin. I didn't want to move. My family's back there. Like, I was so happy. I loved my home. I loved everything about my life back there. And, I gave it all up. Like, I followed him to come to California, gave up my career, gave up teaching, couldn't teach again because I didn't have certification. And then all of a sudden I find myself with this now, okay, not only do I not know if anything is true, but I don't even have a freaking job. Like, I don't have a career to fall back on. I have jack crap, right? And literally did. Like, I didn't have anything because so much was invested in another human. And so therefore there wasn't the investment within myself. I will tell you though, the flip of it was when I was hiking in Sequoia National Park, and I talk about this moment on my TED Talk. I was
It's a
hiking
good
in
TED Talk. I watched your TED Talk. It's good.
Did you watch my TED Talk? Yeah, on forgiveness.
You
And
you're a little more edgy talking about this event than you are right now.
yeah, well, oh, you mean like, well, here's the deal is that I look back on my life and I was still angry.
Oh yeah, you can feel it.
You can see it. Oh yeah. Oh, I know.
That's why I said you didn't kill him, because
I took it
that
out on
woman
the
on the
audience.
TED Talk might have pulled the trigger.
Well, it's really funny because I talk to people about that. I said, I look at myself from 11 years ago and 12 years ago, and I'm like, man, there was so much rage within me. And even when I was in my place of love, I was angry, and I had every freaking right to be angry, by the way. Like, I had every right to be angry. And
Listeners, we'll put a link to her TED Talk and to her book on when we do our publish this. So
thank you.
yep.
And the thing that I also want to validate for those people that have been through anything hard or are walking through anything hard is that you have a freaking right to be angry. Here's the thing though, the anger, it'll either hold you in a state of, flight. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk. Freeze, right? Fight, flight, or freeze, or you can use that anger for the betterment, not only for yourself, but others. And for me, it was when I stood on that rock in Sequoia National Park and I looked out. I was on this hike with my friends. And when I stood out and I looked at the beauty before me, I had this realization that this world is so much greater than myself, my pain, or what I had lived through. And I was not going to stay there, because if I stayed there, that would be sacrificing my entire life forward, just like I had already sacrificed my entire life prior to. And that just wasn't going to happen. And
well, you were moving on, technically, I mean, people talk about that. You were moving through the stages of grief.
Oh, 100%. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which anger is always right there at the front. And
I couldn't help but think, when on your TED Talk, you talk about the nature thing. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Mary Oliver and her poetry, but I was like, yeah, that's right down that path right there.
Yeah.
Nature,
well,
and how it can heal and how it can teach.
The thing is that people feel like, and I don't want to make this generalization. However, for most people, they think, okay, when something happens, I need to go into therapy, right? I need to go and find that person that can tell me what to do. And the greatest gift of our hardest times is that no one can tell you what to do. You end up having the gift within yourself to guide you to move forward into whatever is next in your life. I was on a conversation with Allison Levine recently, who ended up being one of my mentors through all of this, believe it or not. I mean, there's so many things that have played out where I now look back and I'm like, oh, that's what that was about. I was sitting on my bed not long after all of this happened. And I got a text message from one of my dear friends, and she said, have you read Allison Levine's book? And I said, no. Who's Allison Levine? Well, Allison Levine ended up being the first captain of the all women's team to go up Mount Everest, to lead an all women's team up Mount Everest. And she's incredible. And her book was all about leadership. And I read this book and I'm like, I want to meet her someday. Well, lo and behold, fast forward, she's this incredible keynote speaker, and she's been this insane mentor in my life for moving forward and leading in a different way, including leading through my own trauma. And so now, and this is what I was pointing to, Mark, was that when you asked that question was, yes, I call it Sarah 4.0, where I was a trauma coach. I was leading people through the Grand Canyon, through Alaska, through, Colorado on these healing retreats. I was coaching, I was doing all the things. And now I'm 51, and Sara 5.0 has stepped more into executive coaching. I just led the USC men's water polo team down into the Grand Canyon on a team building and resilience problem solving retreat. It was epic. I mean, imagine me and like all these men.
Did Adam go in that?
No.
I'm not going to make any comments about that. That was probably a freebie on her part.
Oh, it was insane. My son's captain of the team, and so that's something.
Oh, you mean I thought you said the
no, not USA. Oh, hello. Let's put that out there. I'll take the USA men's team.
That's what I thought she said. I thought that freebie.
Well, you probably know Adam, right?
You do. Yeah, I know of him. Yeah.
He lived right across the street from me, and I've had.
Oh, there you go. Here's the hook. Tell him I'll do it.
I know, and he's on my newsletter. So, Adam, how cool would that be? How cool would that be to take the U.S. women's water polo? And by the way, he's now gone into speaking, engagements and all that.
Oh, how do you talk to him? Yeah, that's incredible.
I will, because what a cool out of water experience and coming in. Well, here, listeners, let me tell you, they don't even know what we're talking about. Because are you still doing this, or have you progressed from that as well?
So no, I do still lead retreats in the Grand Canyon, and I do lead them. I have not done an Alaska one recently, but I'm also going to bring that one back because I had so many people.
Let's tell everybody what you do, which is phenomenal. Leading these women onto a hike down into the Grand Canyon, and I don't know if it's pushing them to their limits, but it's enough to where they are discovering themselves. And you are out there where, you're not going to rely on your cell phones, and you're not going to rely on this. And I got to tell you, if you go to Sarah's website and you see some of these pictures of her, and that's where your famous red shoes come into play and all of that. Talk just briefly about that.
So I started doing these, like 2013. So it was about 2014-ish, ish. Isn't that funny? It's like time goes so fast. I developed this program where we do 3 months of coaching prior to, and we do coaching afterwards. The intensive, think about it as like experiential journey into self and this, by the way, mirrors what my keynote is about as well. We stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon. We do the deep dive in. We literally walk down into the problems within our life. We work through them. We hike through them. We coach through them. We meditate through them. And we come out completely different human beings. When we are different, our problems change. Okay. Now, note that it's not the problems. It is us that internally and then externally where our problems can change. If we remain the same person in our problems will never change. Make sense? And so what we do is this deep exploration into who we are and how we want to live moving forward. And the cool thing is that now that I'm in this next space, it's literally like taken this entire journey, and I now give this from stage. Right. And so I know, right? The keynote is all about descending before we ascend, which is exactly the opposite of what so many people do. Because typically when we're ascending mountains, we go up and then we come down. But how many times, like metaphorically in life, how many times have we climbed to that next best thing and then realized we're not even against the right wall? How many times have we reached for the goals and we're like, wait, it wasn't even this goal that I wanted? The benchmarks, all of it. And so metaphorically, it just works so beautifully. So that's the journey. And like,
So I think when you get a group of, in fact, first of all, the fact that they sign up for this means they're like-minded in that they're willing
Yeah.
to explore themselves. Okay.
Yeah.
They've got this wonderful coach who's been there, done that, and can speak to them and can listen to them. How wonderful to get into that area of, I mean, sure, you're breaking your cardio is going through the roof because you're hiking, but you're able to focus. And then you've got these mentors that you're going down this canyon with. And you're capturing this not only beautiful area, but the beauty, you're realizing the beauty inside. And how did the red shoes come about?
The red shoes came about. So there's two different things that
there should be a calendar with Sara because I've
the red shoes.
the red shoes on the edge of a canyon with her shirt off, and I mean, okay, I want the calendar.
That's hilarious. Well, so there were two different things that came into play here. The red shoes came into play when I was getting questioned on who are you to be doing this work? Why are you taking people down into the Grand Canyon? I mean, I was getting questioned from everything, believe it or not, from, oh my gosh, a woman doing, quote, work in what is typically more of a male-dominated world. I'm going to say it in the world of guiding, especially back then it was. To who are you to be doing this at this age? To you were this mom, that stay-at-home mom that was the volunteer. Why are you all of a sudden like, what do you think you're doing?
Yeah.
And so
well, you have at that time, you didn't have all the initials after your name, you know.
I didn't have all the initials. I didn't have, I mean, since then I've been on the doctors. I've done all sorts of stuff.
Blown up since those days.
Yeah. But for back then, you know, my voice, as loud as I was trying to speak, it was getting questioned. And so I was out on a run actually on the Greenbelt, and I had this like epiphany, like maybe you just need to take red shoes and put them on the top of a mountain, and then people will see like you can be, there's many variations of who you are. And so I did. I took a dress and heels to the summit of Mount Baldy. I took this epic shot. I ended up posting it on Facebook. My mother, God rest her soul, because she has since passed, but she was like, what are you doing? And then it just blew up. And all these people are like, oh my God, that's so cool. That's so cool. And so there's the red heels. And since then, I have taken them on everything from the John Muir Trail to the Sierra High Route, where you're literally like, there's no trail, you're navigating the top peaks of the mountains, to, I mean, all over the place. And it's been super fun. But then it led into this dress that I wanted to wear on the TEDx stage, on the TED Talk stage, and they wouldn't let me. And it was a very expensive, beautiful gown. And I was like, but I want to wear this dress. And they're like, well, it's too shiny. You can't. You got to wear jeans and a t-shirt. And I'm like, what?
Why is that?
That's so boring.
Well, but why is that? Was it really a rule, or was it something with production that they couldn't shoot?
It was both. It was this production piece, but it was also because they said the dress was so shiny that it would take away from the story. And I totally understand that. Like that I can now.
Was that the local TED?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on the TED planning committee for Bloomington. So
are you? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So,
and so you understand.
Well, yeah, but I sort of get it. I mean, there's been a few times we've made wardrobe suggestions to people. Like there's a couple times we should have and we didn't. So I don't know. It's, you know, but I thought your TED Talk was great. I thought.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's just funny.
Great. I think you look great in jeans and the t-shirt, by the way.
I did too. Jeans and a top. I was like, what? Literally the night.
I don't know that I think of you outside of that, actually. So,
well, that was a part of the problem.
On the side of a canyon, then I do see that, but you know.
That was a part of the problem, was the fact also that people see me in a certain way. And I was like, well, wait a second. There's this whole other side. Yeah. So then I was like, well, I can't take the dress back, even though it was a very expensive dress. And, and I said, well, I'm just going to keep it. And then 2020 hit and I didn't have anywhere to go in it. And like, it just one thing led to the other. So I took that to the mountain and I started putting that dress on top of these mountains. And literally, I'm talking like it was a very expensive gown. I never spend that much money, but I wanted to. And so the joke with my clients, because then I started letting my clients put it on. So my clients would find a spot in the Grand Canyon and they'd put this, I'm just going to say, it was like a $600 dress, mind you. Like it is not a cheap dress.
Right.
And they were like, seriously, I can put the gown on? I said, put the damn gown on, go out and stand on the edge and let's take some pictures. I mean, not the edge, but you know what I mean? And it ended up being this amazing dress that so many of my clients have worn in these most epic places.
So now it's iconic. Yeah.
I carry it in a $1 Ziploc bag.
Right. Well, so talk to us a little bit about some of the discoveries. Because I got to believe this is almost like a deep tissue massage where it's bringing out deep-seated emotions. And I got to believe around a campfire, after a day of strenuous hiking and beautiful vistas, that there have been people who have just all of a sudden come to a cathartic moment, a realization, and just opened up. And everybody, it's group hug time, or there's just got to be some discoveries.
I think one of the coolest, you're gonna make me start crying.
Go ahead.
One of the coolest things has been coming full circle with my boys.
Mm-hmm.
I love my clients. They're like family to me. And I started this because I wanted my boys to see the best version of me.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be the best version of yourself if you're not going to work on yourself to become that person, especially when you've gone through really tough times.
Because they were going through it too.
They were going through it too.
How old were they then? I know how they all, I see them older now.
Yeah.
Were they
No, my middle was, so my oldest was 22. My middle was 12.
You mean at 13, in 2013?
Yeah. Well, now, I mean, if we're looking at like the actual year, but
I
now
get your diet. I have to get your diet.
now my oldest is 33.
No kidding.
Yeah, my middle is 23 and my youngest is 18.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went through a lot together. I mean, and I say like, if you're looking at the actual date of when it happened, that's it, it was that.
Right. But I mean, from there to there, and those kids are just too great. Those kids, I haven't seen pictures recently, but when you were posting a while ago, they just all seem like they're just great kids.
I try to give them space because I don't want to speak on behalf of them. So I try to give them space from where they're at in their adult lives. But I will say, when you're asking about those moments,
mm-hmm.
being able to take my son and the water polo team that he has been captain of, this is his second year, down into that Grand Canyon. And he sent me the nicest note the next morning and said, this has been like the best to watch you in your zone. And I didn't even realize that this is the type of work that you do. Because it wasn't just me guiding them down in, it was like literally going through this entire journey of and using the canyon as a metaphor for their play, for their game, for what that team loves. And to have 20 of us, 19 of us down in there together, and then to watch them cry, literally like break down. Like one of them said to me, this was the best cry I have ever had. And I needed this.
That's what I was looking for, because man, that means impact. That is really set. Oh my gosh.
And now, a couple of weeks ago, I was watching them in a water polo tournament, and the whole thing with them was team building, resilience. Really, I want them as men to experience what it is to be able to break through those barriers, right? Because literally that's what you're doing in anything in life. If it's trauma, if it's challenges, if it's change, whatever. And they ended up having back-to-back overtime games, and they won the both of them. And I heard them, and actually their coach told me too. Their coach said that one of the guys was like, "We're at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, guys. We're climbing out. We're doing it together. We can do this. Like this isn't going to stop us. We're so much stronger. Let's go." And it's so cool to witness people using that strength to be able to tap into it when they're outside of the canyon, to tap into the love for themselves, knowing who they are, being able to believe that deeply in themselves because they have what it takes. And it's not, I'm using that as just one example because literally for me, that was like full circle as a mom. And we all know, like, if anybody knows me or follows me, they know like being a mom is like the biggest gift for me. And it always will be. I mean, it's just like I just have such a connection with my boys. But we're talking like, I mean, I've witnessed people get married again. I just had another one get married, actually two this year, two people. I've witnessed them completely change their jobs, their careers, their lives.
2 weeks ago, you posted about, this is something to talk about before we're going to run out. I just know it.
I'm going to have to cut Mark off. I'll just warn you right now. The last question he's going to ask you is this, and I'll just say it right now, Mark.
I'm not gonna ask that.
He's going to ask you, will AI kill us?
Anything.
Will AI kill us? So just be prepared.
That could be
I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to answer it. So go ahead, Mark.
Ask me anything.
A couple of weeks ago, you talked about starting again. Don't be afraid to start again or start over. What was it? It was a couple of weeks ago.
Was it a post that I did?
Don't be afraid to. It was almost like don't be afraid to reinvent yourself, to go and do new things, and that's true too. And people get so caught up in what they're doing. They think, I'm too far down the road. I've been teaching for 20 years. I can't do anything else. I mean, it's too late. It's too late. I know people who've gone back to school and gotten their law degrees at 40.
Of course.
Back to school and got, all of those things. And that was something you were talking about. I thought it was that post, and I've read many of them, but it was that post. I said, got to have Sara on the podcast. Because I think that's something when you look at the way the business world's changing and all that people are having to reinvent themselves, having to reskill themselves. So it's like, who was it? I saw this post about Jim Carrey saying about his dad was really funny. And he goes, if you're going to fail at something, why not fail at something you like rather than fail at something?
He became instead of being a comic, he became an accountant, and the
Right.
Closed up, and he failed as an accountant. But he could have failed as a comic.
Why not fail as a comic? At least you're failing at something you enjoy doing.
I thought that was brilliant.
So, but
I agree. I mean, I think that so many of us get stuck in this space of what society is telling us to do, and we look at our age and we think, "Oh my God, but I only have this much time left," and whatever. And No, I mean, here's the thing. This is my rule of thumb. When I die at 108, because that's when I feel like I'm going to die, I do not want to die wishing that I would have tried something that now I can't even try. I don't want to die all of a sudden waking up and living to something that I could have lived in years earlier. Otherwise, it's just taking every dream, every goal, everything to the grave with you.
Yeah. Well, this is what I think you're going to be like at 108, Sara. First of all, you won't look much different than you do now. And second of all, you'll be going, wonder what death will be like.
Yes, I probably will.
Wow.
You bring this up, and I've been thinking about this for a while. So I've been thinking, what would I want people to say at my funeral? And here's what I finally realized. Look, he's moving.
Yeah, I know. Get something that
He's moving.
Anyway, before we get away, this is my favorite of all Sarah's stories. Okay. And once again, this goes back a ways. So, but nobody here has heard it, and it's still one of my favorite stories. And every time we get together, if I get you up in front of a group of people,
I know which one it is.
I always have you tell this story. I want the one out on the paddleboard.
Yes. I was paddling out to sea one morning. And by the way, it's been foggy here again.
Yeah.
And I was paddling really hard because I was working through some deep pain. And the quick version of it is I got so far out there that I all of a sudden found myself in a fog bank. I had no idea that this fog bank was coming in like this. And it was scary because it was scary, but yet it was super peaceful. There was this, okay, what am I like? I could have been hit by a boat, and you couldn't see you couldn't see.
By the way, listeners, when we talk about
I was talking like 4 miles.
He's like
4 miles off the ocean.
Breakwater. This is out where there are shipping lanes and
how do you know which way is north, east, south? I mean, that's
the problem.
So that was typically in any other situation, I know exactly where I am.
I'm pretty certain that's what happened to the minnow.
Well, what ended up happening here is that when I looked up and I realized I'm seeing nothing but fog, right? I literally flipped my board around. And this is the lesson and the reminder to everybody. If you've ever watched the movie Pocahontas, where she's literally standing there and she doesn't know which way to go, if you've watched it, that's how I felt in that moment. It was this overwhelming piece of, okay, become one with the water, and the water will tell you where you need to go. And I'd already gone out there, so I knew the direction of the wind, the waves, the currents, and all of that. And just turning my board around and flipping it and going towards, as I thought I was going east, right, into the shore. And then I had this, okay, ask for help, call out the dolphins. And so I did. And I literally had this conversation, like, I need the dolphins to come help me to get me in. And lo and behold, I ended up with a pod of dolphins, with dolphins literally around me. And I'm sitting there talking to them. Anybody that knows me, when I'm on the water, and I actually do this, and go into my Instagram, because I literally have talked to dolphins, and I kid you not, they listen and respond. And I literally had this conversation, like, could you take me into shore? Oh my gosh. Talking really high pitched, and they can hear you. And they guided me directly to the harbor.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm talking, it was white out. And I remember I looked up and I was like, whoa, that was an experience. Like, that was being one with the surroundings. Yeah. That was breaking barriers. That was not listening to the fear, and instead understanding that you have every single thing that you need to get back to where you came from. And so when I got to the shore and I pulled my board up onto the dock, and I literally was like, I don't have to worry. And the thing is that that's a lesson for all of us. Like, trust your instinct, trust your gut, trust your values, trust your intuition, and you will get to where you need to go, or where you want to go, right? Or wherever it is that you were intended to go. And it was we have moments like that in life that define our present and future. And that was by far and none one of the biggest ones for me.
I think you should have a logo.
Amazing story.
A dolphin in there with red shoes somehow placed, in its mouth. A dolphin with red shoes in its mouth.
Do you have, can I share one last quick story to everybody that, like, okay. So I don't know if you know this or not, but literally my life has come full circle, that when I was 12 years old, I walked into my catechism class back in where I grew up. And I looked up and I saw this cute boy, and I was like, oh my God, he's so cute. Have we not all done that when we were young, right? I mean, we all have. You have that first person. You're like, oh my God, they're so cute.
Debbie Webb, I talk about it, our 50th year class reunion. Debbie Webb was my, had a crush
on her.
It was
me, but.
Yeah.
Same.
Like literally, like we've all had that, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like you just have like, oh wow, they're so cute. And 32 years later, literally 32 years later, I reconnected with that same guy and we are now dating.
You know how many times I've heard that in my life? It's
We've been dating
crazy.
for over a
It's
year.
crazy. That's not an uncommon story.
But the funniest thing about it, we went to high school together and
Where was it? Where was high school?
Black Earth. It was just outside of Black Earth, Wisconsin. My high school was in a cornfield and it served two towns and he was from the other town. And so when I realized, after I was 12 and then I realized, oh my God, I'm going to high school with the same guy. Whoa, he's so cute. I was kicked out of my math class. Thank you, Mr. Jensen, because I couldn't focus, as he said, like not kicked out of the class. I was like demoted to Algebra 1 because of Joe. And because of my crush on Joe.
Funny.
And
Oh my.
isn't that great?
That's great story.
Oh,
Get out of the because I could not focus. Get out
I
of
could not focus. You're just so cute. And then literally like we went to one dance together midwinter. We have one picture of us that one of my best friends' moms happened to be going through her box of pictures. And she last year was like, when we first started dating and we told only a couple of people and she said, oh my God, I found this picture. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. I don't have any pictures of us together.
Where is Joe?
Joe lives in Wisconsin, so I'm in California.
Oh,
But I'm gonna tell you
what's the plan? What's the plan?
I know. What's the plan? Everybody
all
wants
right.
the
Hey,
plan.
you
I
may
did
have
it.
to save that for the next episode. I hate to say
My
Okay,
podcast.
All right. We got to take a picture first of all, because we're down to
Okay,
one
yeah.
minute. All right, everybody smile like we're
Okay.
okay. Hey, this was great, Mark. This is a good guess.
I gotta tell you, she's one of the good ones. I did a women's mastermind here, and I could not stop thinking about Sarah, thinking that she could only be here and do this here.
Sarah, I'm gonna put all the links to your
everyone.
book and your LinkedIn. I saw you taught at Fort Zumwalt in O'Fallon.
Yes.
My sister-in-law lived right next door to that school, so I know
No
exactly where
way.
that is.
Oh,
So
that's
we thank
funny.
you so much.
Thank
Wish
you
you
for
the
having me
best.
on, you guys. I appreciate it.
Keep us updated if you're
You are
100%.
wonderful. And remember, send me stuff in my newsletter too. I love to share your wonderful insights and all of that. And,
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Wow. All
Thank
right.
you guys. Thanks.
I love
Good. 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 Enough. As good enough.